Welcome to Plot Off the Press. Today we're closing out our double feature on the Vampire Day. Interview with a Vampire. 7.5 out of 10, 1994 movie. Director is Neil Jordan. Was written, the original book was written by Anne Rice, and the screenplay was also written by her, so I didn't know that. The stars are good friends Brad Pitt, and you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Cruise. So I'm Taylor. Hello. I've got Carter, William, Bill. Say hello.
What? Am I Carter, William, Bill now? It's two of the same names. I mean, I'll take it. I just didn't know. I mean, do you really know who I am? I mean,
or is it William Bill Carter?
Do we ever know?
Willie Billy Carter. Willie Carter.
So we got Billy Carter, and we got Casey Carter.
Hello,
everybody.
So it is a 1994 movie. Yeah, 94. 7.5 out of 10. So I'll kick us off with the ratings. I think 7.5 out of 10 is very high. I don't know if people just like seeing Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. I think it's maybe a 6.5. I like the movie. It does kind of plot along at times. There's some inconsistencies with the vampires, which we'll talk about. But I do enjoy the movie, and it is something I do rewatch from time to time. But I've also read the books on these, and they do an okay job with the moving it from the book to the movie. But I think it looks like because Anne Rice actually does help write the screenplay. So, Casey, what about you?
I gave it a solid 7, and it's been a while since I've seen it. But I think it's still good, and going along with the book thing, I did not read the book, so I think that might be why I like it. Because, as we know, you read the book, the movies just really never measure up. And I know she was... I think
this one, like I said, gets pretty close to the books, so I'm happy with that. I enjoy... I don't know, I didn't really like this book. I liked the Lestat book that comes kind of before this. But, yeah, 7, okay. What about you, Claire?
I hate it, though, because I didn't read it. You're up.
Billy?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just like the fucking movie itself, I was getting bored. It's a 5.6 tops. I'm giving that. It's generous. That's just because it's pretty good acting at times in the movie. I think the character development on all to me, the three main characters, I thought was very rich. So I did enjoy that, but this movie's fucking boring. It's fucking boring. At times, it's damn near stupid. I don't know. I think a problem with this movie is that it's a good thing and a bad thing that Anne Rice wrote the screenplay, but at the same time, she tried to put too much eloquence, like the book is, and I'm sure it is because I didn't read it. But she tried to...
The book is very long.
Yeah, and she tried to cram too much with a lot of not-explanations about stuff in a 2-hour movie, which I feel this movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes. I think she could have got I think it would have been a much better movie to explain just a few things a little bit more, because, I mean, you also got to think that she's probably got the book is really long. It's probably, a 30-hour read, and you're cramming everything into a 2 hours.
Way more than 30. Honestly, the book's like this.
Oh, so your size. Anyway,
Rude.
That's girth. I'm talking about girth. No, it's just not very good, and then we'll get into why. It's just not.
What's your favorite scene?
Who are you asking?
You.
Okay. Mies. This is actually kind of hard for me. That's what she said. No, it was difficult to pick out a favorite scene because I really just nothing really stands out to me. I mean, there's like when Brad Pitt turns into a vampire, it's like but it's still everything seems to fall flat for a lot of scenes that I thought were going to happen. So I'm going to go with the probably the most traumatic, and I want to say when they burn Claudia. And the other chick, when they burn and they put him in the coffin, they seal him up to the wall, and then they burn her. Maybe that's the best one because, but other than that, there's a lot of good little things to it, but none of the scenes have just seemed complete. So I kind of just put stuff up on a dartboard and threw it one.
While I do like that scene, I think my favorite is right after they burn her when he comes out of the coffin and he lights everybody on fire and starts killing him with a scythe.
Yeah.
Which is one of my stupidest scenes of the movie.
Well, yeah, it's dumb, but it's entertaining.
Oh, sure, but it's stupid.
Okay.
Casey?
Okay, well,
I like it when Brad Pitt's turned into a vampire. You mentioned that, but I mean, without that happening, you wouldn't have had a movie.
Yeah, but again, it's a very good scene, and that was it was on my list. I'm just saying that.
I mean, he flies up in the air. He's
well, no, that's before. I'm talking about in like the graveyard where the statues are, where he actually turns Brad Pitt into.
I was talking about like when he murders them, like that whole thing. Like he murders them, and then he's turned into a vampire.
Well,
that whole thing.
Well, that's okay. So you're grouping a good portion because that's the next day. Well, that's actually the day after the day. So you're grouping. So you're saying from the boat when they fly, they fly, and he drops in the water. He wakes up. He shows up the next day. Then he points the gun, and then he's like, "I'm going to give you which is probably the best quote of the movie. Is like, "I'm going to give you the chance for the choice that I was never given." But then he watches the sunset, and then he kills him the next night.
What's the whole thing?
Well, okay, I get it's the whole thing. That's a couple different scenes. And honey, I'm not knocking it, but I mean, I thought about that. But then here's the deal: is after Brad Pitt's turned into a vampire, he's like, "Look at things with your vampire eyes," and it's like, what? And the only time they mention that, and there's eyeballs on the statue that kind of look at you, and then they move away, and it's just like, okay, well then that's never brought up again. No point in time, so wait a minute. So what about vampire eyes? And then the only time about smelling is really when he goes back to New Orleans in I believe he says it's 1980, correct? And he could smell Tom Cruise between the cemetery or on Lafayette or whatever, but it's like, well, okay, cool, vampire eyes.
Because Tom Cruise stinks.
What? He didn't stink as bad as Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's the one that didn't shower. Okay, anyway.
Okay.
Moving along. No, but I mean, I'm with you. Like I said, I had problems with, I thought that was a good scene when he dies. It's just your body dying, and it was interesting. And then with your vampire eyes. Okay, well, if you did vampires, there should be a lot more vampire eyes going forward. Shit like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Kind of moving on from there, what's your favorite character then?
I don't mean to go first, but I want to. It's Claudia. Disagree with anybody? I did. It's the little girl. It's Kirsten Dunst. She's awesome.
Oh, okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Because I don't even like her, really. But in this, I mean, she's a kid doing this, and to be...
You don't like Kirsten Dunst in, what's...
Spider-Man? No, fuck you.
I just don't like her. I'm just not a fan.
Okay.
But I like her in this.
I like her in Bring It On, honestly.
This is a cheerocracy.
Oh, not a... This is a cheerocracy, not a democracy.
It's cold in here.
Well, no, hey, look, I own Bring It On DVD. Also, back in the day, it was just like the blockbusters were kind of getting out of style. It was like, well, I want to watch this movie, and it was like, that's $7. That's like a rental. I'll be 3 days late. I'll get high and forget and take it back. So yeah, I don't Bring It On, but it was just like the better Bring It On version was the mock version they had in Not Another Teen Movie. Now that was fun, but I digest.
So, do you like Kirsten Dunst? My favorite character is probably going to be. I like Brad Pitt in this one, honestly, and I don't, and it's just because he's so different from the. I don't. You know what? You guys are probably right. It's Kirsten Dunst. She's definitely.
Hold on. You know what it is? Is that, and this is in my comments that we're going to get to, is that Louis' a great character. I don't like how Brad Pitt played him. I think that's it's when he starts off at the beginning of the movie, and so we're going to kind of jump ahead, but this is Brad Pitt doing his Meet Joe Black without the goofiness at first, but it's very dry and no emotion. I guess like a vampire should be, but he starts off though with his character when he's introduced. He's just like, "Fuck it, I don't care about dying," and he's got like he's got like. Does this make sense? Like death charisma,
yeah. And then all of a sudden, all he cares about is preserving life.
Right.
Like which doesn't. And again, I didn't read the book, and I'm sure that's another thing that it bothers me is that.
And I was going to say so. What's weird about the movie? Louis is quite a whiner in the books, but a lot of Louis' path, he's actually retracing what Lestat did, like 100 years before that. Like Lestat went to that same theater in Paris that he ends up in. That's why Armando knows him, and he actually helped found the theater. So that's why, eventually why they kill him, because they all liked Lestat, or he helped start the whole Coven thing. So there's some backstory there that they don't really give that I think could have helped, and it wouldn't have been that hard to add in.
Well, and again, not jumping ahead, but if we're going to discuss this, I mean, like one of my comments here is, it's like I said, her dialogue is a little too elegant, which it's not bad that it's poetic at times. I mean, but at the same time, though, it's not long enough. Whereas that this movie with little things like that's things that I have problems with this movie is why I give it so low a rating. It's like, why is everyone so? I mean, obviously, you're not supposed to make a little girl a vampire, right? But it's because now that you say that, it's like, oh, Lestat helped. So, I don't know if there's friends among vampires. I'm assuming there's companions, but I guess when you don't have anybody else to be immortal with, you get to be pretty tight. So that would make sense why that they were so fucking hell-bent on doing this. But Antonio Banderas did not want to do that, but which doesn't make any sense why he didn't. Antonio Banderas. No, it's too sexy. But yeah, see that's what happens with this movie is it's just not long enough to give me little pieces of what should have like. And here's the perfect person to write the screenplay is the lady that wrote the book, and so because every movie is the Cliff Notes of any book, right? Remember Cliff Notes?
Yes.
Red binder with the black lines. Yeah, that's every book that's made into a movie is the Cliff Notes. Even Lord of the Rings is magical as it is, and everyone loves it so much. But the extended director's cut, if you put them all together, is fucking like 12 hours long, which I don't mind watching that much because it gives me so much information. But there's still so much shit. I mean, hell, even Game of Thrones, they turn into a fucking TV show. There's still stuff that's left out from the books. So, and I hate all this.
And I will say this, just an interesting side note: when you read the Game of Thrones books, they're a little bit different. But I think Anne Rice does some of the same stuff in the Lestats and Interview with a Vampire. In each chapter in the Game of Thrones books, it's a different character's point of view. So you'll start the chapter and it'll say like Arya, and then you read the whole chapter and it's all from her point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And you see little tidbits and stuff, but then you see it from another character's point of view that's on the other side of the world. They'll make one little side comment talking about something that's going on, but most of it's from their point of view. So it's interesting. And it's hard to duplicate that in film. And I think you're right. She tries to translate too much of the elegance of the books, which makes the books good.
Sure.
But that is almost too grand at times for the movie.
Which makes it. We're watching a vampire, like a dramatic vampire movie, okay? Which we don't get a lot of, but still at the same time, though, without.
And this is over like 200 years of stuff as well.
Sure, and that's why I always try to not get into, because I know both of y'all are very big readers, and I'm not. I'm a movie guy, or I like to watch movies more than read books. I mean, because the last thing I read was Curious George Goes to Washington.
Oh, stop it!
Which they turned into a Jimmy Stewart movie, Minister George. Anyway, what I'm saying is that I really hate to compare books to movies in this, but this is one of those ones where the author of the book wrote the screenplay, so I think it's kind of relevant that we put this in, especially since you've read it and you haven't. But what you're saying is that it could be, you might like the movie less.
I'll be honest, you probably wouldn't like the book, Casey. It's hard to get through because it's so long.
Yeah.
Casey read fucking anything. You kidding me?
But if the wording is as this, I probably wouldn't be able to.
It is. It definitely is, and it's
take
hard.
me like a fucking year to read it.
No, it would.
I really like Lestat because Lestat is the book is set. The narration is set after this interview with the vampire. So, like the whole first chapter of the book, he complains about how Louis had said all this stuff in an interview with the vampire that was all bullshit, and that Louis was just a big baby and all this other stuff. So I found that interesting. But yeah, I mean, it plogs on forever and ever.
Well, then I have a question because you did read it, and some of my stuff was saying that they were like a couple, but you really didn't see that Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise were
not in
like
that same way.
Okay,
not in that same way. So Lestat had like a former companion that would probably be closer to like a gay couple that he met in his original hometown in France somewhere. What was really cool is like Lestat, when he first got changed, was by this really old vampire, but he went out hunting with his 3 big wolfhound dogs, and they got attacked by a pack of wolves. The dogs kill like 3 or 4 of the wolves, and then he hand kills a couple while he's still human, mind you. Crawls back to his castle, and that's when this other guy comes and changes him because he saw such a spark or whatever. But yeah, he had another companion before Louis that he was in a much different type of relationship, and it broke his heart because they both went to the theater, and then at the theater he ends up killing himself because he doesn't want to live forever, right? He wanted to have a real life, not a vampire life. And so with Louis, you see this weird almost mirror image in that way, but they're not as close.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not gay.
Because he definitely seems to hate Lestat, but tolerate him. And of course, okay. Regardless of that, I mean, that would have been a little bit. What you're talking about right there, little stuff like that, like how Lestat was turned into a vampire, or if he'd have known the company, is little stuff that I think could have been.
Well, and then maybe some of his backstory of why he is the way he is.
Yeah, I mean, they could have spent a 5-minute flashback and told.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Told
Mm-hmm.
enough of Lestat's story to kind of make the rest of this make sense.
And again, he didn't have to necessarily. You didn't say initially that that's how he was made. Which, not knowing how Lestat was made or not, I could have lived with or without. That wasn't that big of a deal because then that doesn't give the myth of what he's saying. I'm going to give you the choice of what the choice that I was never given. But that'd been interesting to see. But not knowing that he was part of the Playhouse in France, I could have done it with or without that because this is also one of those movies where Antonio Banderas, apparently one of his vampire powers is be able to read minds. So once Brad Pitt gets to the Playhouse, all he has to do is read Brad Pitt's mind, and they could have mentioned that or not. But it makes a little bit more sense why the vampires killed him. But again, I think if this movie was 30 minutes longer, and I think Anne Rice condensed it so well she was happy with it, obviously, or she wouldn't have signed off because she has all these rights to this movie, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel if it was 30 minutes longer, you could have just peppered in a lot more stuff where it made more sense. So I'll get off on my tangent. I'm sorry.
So let's talk about casting, because we've kind of jumped off in the story and a little bit more conversation I thought we was going to have. Do you guys change anything out for the casting for the movie?
I did.
Okay.
I changed out Antonio Banderas.
Banderas.
With who?
Well, so I got to thinking of actors that were about the same age, and at the time in the 90s, good-looking guy, Val Kilmer. That's what I went with.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And I think he and Brad Pitt
The
kind
problem there is Armando. It's very, very, very much Spanish.
well, I mean, I can read books and stuff. I'm just
well,
going with.
because
I'm just going with looks.
so you just went straight cracker.
Well, I didn't know he was supposed to be whatever.
It's supposed to be okay.
His name's Armando.
Well, I was just going with looks in the same age.
Okay, Carter.
Good
Who?
dude.
All right, well, now, I kind of cheated a little bit on this because if you watch the movie all the way to the end of the credits, it says in, memory of River Phoenix, which I just happened to notice this last time that I watched it. Again, another movie I'm pretty sure I saw in the fucking movie theater. It's 1994, so more than likely I saw it there. I don't recall, but River Phoenix for Brad Pitt.
Okay.
That he'd have been a little bit younger, but he wouldn't have been out of the realm of possibilities because, what is he? Brad Pitt's supposed to be 24.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's 30 at the time in this movie. So I think River Phoenix, but, of course, River died, and that might have been one of the reasons why they put in memory is maybe he was attached to the movie. I don't know. I didn't do a lot of research on that, but I could have definitely seen River Phoenix being Brad Pitt. Although in this movie, if we still had Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, I'd have liked to switch the roles. I'd have rather seen Brad Pitt do Lestat than Tom Cruise do Louis. But I did recast Taylor's boy, Tom Cruise. Because I just, in this movie, as we watch it, I do not like him as Lestat at all. At no point in time, I don't. And no, I know Taylor's like, yes, say something bad about Tom Cruise, which, this just wasn't the role for him. He was just offered this because it's a big part, and he was on fire at this point in time.
Yeah.
Between, A Few Good Men and et cetera, et cetera. But no.
That's the right personality for the role.
No, he did. Well, it's almost like he is borderline constantly overacting to be Lestat. At times he is, and at times he's not. But it's right on the. And I don't know if he'd been discovered yet, but so let's go with the Paris guy and say Vincent Cassel. The Nighthawk from Ocean's 12 and 13, he would have been perfect as Lestat. He would have been, because he's already French. He could have kind of done an American, not necessarily an American accent, but he could have spoken American, and he's got that je ne sais quoi about him. Do you know what I'm talking about, though?
I do know who you're talking about. I'm thinking.
Hey, do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah, I think he would have been, to me, in my mind, that's my Lestat right there, for sure. This guy right here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on. He is. That is. Taylor, do you disagree? I rarely ask if you disagree or not, but could you not?
No, he'd be okay. I changed out Tom Cruise, obviously. I was actually going a weird direction. I was.
Well, let me. Come on.
Rutger Hauer or Hauer from Blade Runner.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about.
At his younger age, and then there's another actor. that I can't. Hold on, give me a second.
All right. Well, you're looking it up real quick.
He was the Emperor. You remember the Emperor's Club?
Yeah.
Who was the main actor?
Oh, fuck. Now you're asking me too many questions. No. Real quick. I read a little thing that said when Anne Rice was writing the book, if there were going to be a movie, that she wrote it for Rutger Hauer. The only problem is that they didn't make a movie until almost 20 years later, and Rutger Hauer's too old by then.
Kevin Kline. That was the other one.
Man, 2 weeks and two episodes, or 2 weeks in a row that Kevin Kline gets thrown in there.
Yeah, he got pulled in. I think last week for Hook, right?
Yeah, for Hook, for me, for Pan or Peter Bennings. But
I don't think he would have been as serious enough. But I think Rutger Hauer, if he could play off some of the,
no, I think
the non,
it'd be fun. It'd be fun because again, it's that old like place, like that Shakespearean kind of, like English guys can play Romans, Americans, whatever, but they can still even just use their British accent. And still just like, oh, okay. Like, look at those old movies in the late 50s and 60s and whatever. There's a bunch of Romans or Greeks in there, and they're all English, and no one thinks that you just associate that with Jason and the Argonauts. Oh, they're all British. Okay. They're not Greek, because no one knows what a Greek fucking accent is.
I mean, you make a good point.
Yeah, so, I mean, but yeah, Rutger Hauer been really good, and then I'm sorry. I mean, I know he's not in everything, and I think he could have been in more stuff, but I think I can almost recast Kevin Kline just about every week. And it's one of those things where it took us a while doing this till we got to where it's like, what the fuck about Kevin Kline? I mean, that's right up there. He's consistent. He's just not he's just not as big as, like, say, consistent like Tom Hanks is consistent. And I mean, like Tom Hanks after like 1990, Tom Hanks consistent. Where it's just, I mean, like even the movie Larry Crown, it's a bad movie. He's just really good at it. You know what I mean? It's just
so with casting, and hold on, I always forget where we are. So let's talk about director just for a quick minute here. Neil Jordan, right?
Jordan.
He is not as well known.
He's not bad. He's not bad. He's actually done a couple different vampire things after that.
I mean, I gotta be honest. I'm looking at his list. I don't think I've seen anything other than this that he's made.
No, you've seen something else. I don't know. Casey's watched Byzantine with it's the female
Byzantium.
Gemma. God, she's the other chick from fucking Frozen.
Oh,
it's the other. I think she's not Elsa. I think it's the other one. But
couldn't tell you. Haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Frozen?
No, no, I haven't.
Let it go.
You're talking about Byzantine. No, he's done a couple of different things. Well, Greta, I know about. Oh, The Crying Game. Oh, he's the writer of The Crying Game. Byzantine has got what's her name? It's Sariello Ronan or whatever her name is, but it's Gemma.
Not on Silent.
Oh,
Yeah, but she's the other part of Frozen. You've got to have seen something else that he's done. He's not a bad director. He's just not a big director. Oh, I know what it is. We're No Angels with Sean Penn and Robert De Niro, and then High Spirits, and then the Byzantine movie.
He was only writer or producer.
On what?
On any of those. Like he hasn't directed as many. Like I don't know any of these fucking movies I'm looking at. So Red Hot and Blue, The Miracle, The Crying Game, Michael Collins, Butcher Boy, and Dreams, The End of the Affair. I haven't seen any of these.
Well, what's wrong with you? All right, The Crying Game was the one.
I haven't seen them.
The Crying Game was the big twist is that he starts making out with this girl and she's got a dick, and that was big for 1992. High Spirits is a funny movie, but it's still kind of Peter O'Toole, Daryl Hannah, Steve Guttenberg. I remember Steve Guttenberg. We're No Angels was Sean Penn. They're kind of fun, playful, and then Interview with the Vampire, and then after that, I'm with you. It's not really till Byzantine, and that's still not that good of a movie. But I mean, he's right up the alley of doing
yeah, I mean, I just don't know any of his work.
vampire movies.
What about let's jump to this. Let's plot holes and comments. And I'll start with Casey because I think Carter's going to take the cake on this one.
Well, I just had a couple things. Seemed like after Brad Pitt saw Tom Cruise, in the graveyard kind of thing, and he looked just like dog shit. He seemed to bounce back pretty quick. Like, we could have done like a little, hey, for a minute, some people were coming through on a tour, and he got all their blood, so that's how he, like, looks good again. Like, I mean, just a little something.
What do you mean? You said that when he goes back to New Orleans in 1980?
Yeah.
Okay, when Tom Cruise is sitting in the chair?
Yeah, when he's all like, yeah.
Even though he doesn't look that bad. He looked worse after he came out of the swamp.
Well, yeah, but he still looks like shit.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next time we see him, he's, like, looking pretty good.
Well, after he drinks Christian Slater's blood, which...
But he still didn't look that terrible. How did he get in the back of the car, like, have enough strength to do that?
Strength. And first off, has he been, for 14 years? Okay, all right.
So anyway, all right, so stop. All right, so
I wanted to discuss that point with you.
Oh, okay.
Is that I'm with you on that because here's the deal, like...
He would have had to get up out of that fucking chair and go find somebody to
first off,
murder.
Yeah, but here's the deal, like, at that point in time, Tom Cruise looks like he's not as bad as he came back when he came back from the swamp.
Right.
Then he's been burned up, so he's had his throat slashed, came back from that, got burned up, and he's not crushed.
Yeah, but hold on. There's a difference there because when he got burned up, it was like another 80 years before he saw him again. With the swamp thing, it was like months.
Yeah, but still, herein lies the problem, which I know she's talking about, is that it's been 80 years. He didn't eat enough rats to rejuvenate back to where he was.
Or even there was like a little scene where, like again, like there was a tour or something going through the graveyard. Our son, and he sucked on a lot of blood there, and then he's good enough to go.
Well, no,
mosey around.
And the problem is that all right. So he's eating all these rats because you see all these dead rats as Brad Pitt comes in, and that's blood, and that's supposed to rejuvenate you. That's how he got out of the fucking swamp again, burned. But why is he still crippled?
Why is he still
because at the end of the movie, he sucks about half of Christian Slater's blood, and he turns back into a fucking Lestat. Looks great, looks good, boom, 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 and it's like. So you're telling me
But even before he did that with Christian Slater, he still looked okay.
Exactly, but I mean, you're telling me so after all these years. I mean, even when he's sitting in the chair, he kind of looks kind of bad, but he's afraid of Brad Pitt. It's like it's been 100 years. He hadn't snuck up on like a drunken person in Bourbon Street by now,
right?
And then sucked their blood and got right back to where he looked with Christian Slater.
Yeah. All right, and here's my other thing too. Just kind of talking about that. So when Brad Pitt, like right before he sees Tom Cruise at that scene, he's saying how he smells death, and it's old death, and he kind of knew. Okay, so just going on that premise, how the fuck didn't they know Claudia was hiding that dead bitch's body underneath those dolls? If you can smell death, come on.
Oh, you got me on that one. You
start pulling the dogs away, and then there's that bitch like, oh.
You got me.
And they were all like, what the fuck?
I didn't even think about that.
Hey, not in the house.
Not in the house, and that always cracked me up too.
Not in your own bed. You to follow your own bed. Ugh.
Gross. All right, so those were my main ones.
I didn't even think about that. Good. That is.
Well, they're supposed to like have heightened senses.
I love that.
I don't understand. Like, I know Louis is supposed to love this girl a lot, but he's still all about saving lives and all that stuff, or a respect for life. But he's just letting this little girl just like kill whoever the fuck she wants, like all the time. And he's just sitting back there with these two fucking psychopaths between Lestat and this little girl, and they're killing everybody. And it's like, hey, you killed your piano teacher. Can you stop fucking doing that? You're trying to learn piano.
What did I tell you?
And here's the
And
deal.
she's like, not in the house, but she keeps fucking doing it.
Here's the thing.
Nobody in New Orleans is real. They're like 3 fucking vampires in this room. That like they gotta like they're going through at least hundreds of people a year between the 3 of them.
Thank you.
Nobody's noticing any of this.
Well, and I will say, I don't know if these vampires could do this, but other vampires, they can compel people to forget shit too. So, like, if the cops come by, they can be like, "This never happened." Blah, blah.
Well, that's not one of their powers. And
Well, we don't know.
That's one of the things you agree. No, hey, Taylor, great point. And here's the deal: is the only person that's getting on to her about killing people is Tom Cruise, who is fucking murdering people. Louis doesn't go, bad vampire girl.
That's out of convenience because Tom Cruise is the one that has to go find her a new piano teacher, a new dressmaker. He's more upset that they have to find a new dressmaker than when she killed the person.
Well, and again,
Tom Cruise is only mad because it's happening in the house. He's like, come on, don't do it with our people that are helping us.
And that's what ends up. He slits the start. It's like, I'll get rid of the bodies. He's like, don't bring it home.
Yeah.
Totally. Brad Pitt's just, well, I guess, girls will be
He's kind of a
girls.
melancholy vampire, so I guess he's just kind of
Such a pussy in this movie.
Well, yeah.
He's just and here's the deal: is the story revolves around him, but I do not give a fuck at any point in time about Brad Pitt in this fucking whole movie. That's why I think and I don't know if
it's like you don't feel bad for him.
Well, I don't care.
You just don't.
He's just there. He might as well be. If it was Downton Abbey, he might as well be the servant that doesn't have a name in the credits. It's just like help number 3.
Well, maybe talking about him letting the little girl get away with everything. Maybe that's part of him. His guilt.
You're overthinking it, but also you're trying to make. You're trying to give validity to Brad Pitt and his character, and there's not like that's why I rated this movie so low. Is because I watched this and it's like Claudia is and she knows what she is. I like how you keep
trying to change her name too.
Yeah, well, I keep mispronouncing it, but yeah, and then Lestat never. Those two never lie who they are. Whereas Brad Pitt,
he goes back and forth.
Goes back and forth, and he kind of seems to get to where he drinks human blood, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I guess you have to get into that, right? You can only go so long.
Yeah.
It's like
human blood.
It's been a century. I guess I should start eating people.
Well, human blood makes you stronger. Animal blood that makes you strong. Duh, everybody knows that.
Duh, everybody knows that. But is that rules in this universe? But
in the vampire universe, yes.
But I
Well,
Taylor, say what you want to say because I want to get back into something else.
Oh, you do? I was about to take us to closing comments. That's really all.
What? No,
what else do you have?
I got 3 pages worth of fucking notes right here.
Okay, keep going. Go.
All right. So one of the things that I really like about this this movie is that vampires, and depends on how you go with, have different powers. Like, say, so in some vampire books, sunlight doesn't hurt them. Like they're just not as powerful in sunlight. Or you've got like Twilight, where they sparkle in the fucking sunshine. Like,
or you have some vampires that have daylight rings.
Well, that's your vampire. Anyway, I'm just saying is that this is one of the first vampire movies where it wasn't just so stereotypical. Garlic crosses or crucifixes, whatever, didn't really affect them. Daylight burns them. And then there was the other thing that was real solid in this was sleeping in a coffin. It makes a vampire secure and know that no sunlight would get in. But I did like about this one is that bite on the neck, suck some blood, and then to turn into a vampire, you have to drink vampire blood.
Yeah.
I did. I thought that was really cool. But, and again, I think that at some point in time that we could write our own vampire movie because, well, the concept of a vampire is this, and then we can make it anyway. But the powers are all over the place, which I enjoyed. I thought that was neat. It wasn't just typical, vampire-y. Let's see. Brad Pitt sucked. Why didn't Lestat heal after 100 years? We touched on that. The vampire killing, which is your favorite scene, but still in Paris, is so totally stupid. Like, did all the vampires go to sleep early? Like, they were like, we got to get up, tomorrow at dusk. Like, we got a big day tomorrow.
They had a show to do.
Yeah, so they're all vampire tuckered out, and then
they were
and then slashes them as then he just slashes them as they come out of coffins, which still doesn't really kill vampires.
He's rage mode.
Oh yeah, I get. Oh, it's like Archer. He's Chaser Rage. Yep. I mean, don't get me wrong, but
I knew that.
I was watching Archer last night.
Right, all right. So another thing that really bothers me is why is it that when people get bit by a Lestat or whatever, and I get he gets drunk, but I mean, still some of them. Everyone seems to have like this euphoric sensation of getting bit. Like they're not like they're drunk, but they're not like sloppy drunk.
Well, supposedly that's supposed to like do that so that you don't care that you're being like bitten.
Yeah, but
it's something to do with when they bite you, the venom or whatever goes in it, and it like that's what it does to you, so that you don't give a fuck.
So they have venom.
Or whatever. I don't know. I'm like the wrong word.
I'm asking.
So the answer is yes. So think of it like a mosquito. Like when a mosquito bites you, it has a little bit of like anesthetic, so you don't really feel it biting. Think of it that way, except for on a more extreme, right? Like vampires are supposed to have like the ability to calm you, and like all the time you see like he's going in, and they think that he's going in for the kiss, and he goes in. And they're thinking he's actually kissing them while he's sucking their blood, right?
Right. That's what I was. Yeah.
Okay. So again, 5 minutes of the movie because he bites that girl like in the titty or whatever, right? I don't know.
I thought that was pretty hot.
Well, bite a titty, but not with blood coming out of it. But
then she was still there for it because she then was like to Brad Pitt like. Does your friend taste as good?
No. I'm talking about when they were in New Orleans still, and he sticks the girl in the coffin. Which
I'm talking about when they're like
they're making an awful lot of noise that no one shows up.
It's New Orleans. Nobody cares.
Regardless, okay. So there's that. I didn't. It takes Lestat 15 years to get to San Francisco. They can fly, sort of, or some of them can read your mind. Like they're all over the place with their powers.
Because everybody has something different.
Fuck that. That's fucking stupid. The Brad Pitt. Hold on.
That's a pretty big running. That's a pretty big running theme in just about every vampire story, though. That they all have some sort of power, and it's different for every vampire.
Yeah, but I mean, look, but still, again. There's no rhyme or reason why. Again, 5 minutes of like explaining or Brad Pitt talking over. Where the fuck do they get money constantly from?
They can steal it.
What from a bank? They're uber rich.
Yeah.
How? And stop talking. That just fucking bothers me.
Okay.
Where they get fucking money from? I don't want you to try to explain where they're old. Well, they don't go get up every morning and go work at fucking Piggly Wiggly.
They don't have to work.
Obviously, because they can't work
They can stab you in the neck, take all your shit.
They're killing hookers constantly.
That's all we saw. I'm sure they're killing some rich people.
Do rich people walk around and say, what are we going to do tonight? I know. I'm going to fuck somebody. I'm going to carry around my treasure chest of gold doubloons.
Oh, I think about mind reading. Mind reading. You can mind read.
They didn't have the power for that.
Tom did.
No, he didn't.
He did. He said read their mind.
No, he could read minds. It's really easy to stay in a landlord's place when you eat the landlord.
It just can't be that hard to be a rich vampire.
All right,
if I was a vampire, I'd be rich as shit.
And then, all right, so So the vampire powers we talked about, but here's the last thing that bothers me about this fucking movie is that nobody knows there's two people sleeping in a coffin on a boat. And then after that, even if you kill everybody on a boat, how the fuck do you get off the boat and then travel through Europe without any aids? Like, people, how the fuck do you travel Europe and sleep in a coffin constantly? Because they did that for like 50 years. They did that for a long fucking time. Anything? Nobody? Am I overthinking it?
I mean, I'm with you. The one thing they don't establish here is how often they actually have to feed. Like, Lestat does it every night, but that's because he's a jerk.
I thought that the same thing, but you know what? I wasn't gonna mention that. Yes, please continue. I'm sorry. I'd love this.
So like, if you look at like Bram Stoker's, he only has to do like every couple of weeks, right? So it's like, if they kill someone every couple of weeks, maybe they do make it across. It's not that long of a journey.
Yeah, it's like a tiger on the Serengeti. I mean, they can go 2 weeks without eating, and then they get a big, they eat a fucking gazelle, and they're good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would say there's a lot of inconsistencies. They don't explain a lot of stuff. Can you please silence your motherfucking phone?
One time, I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
No, that's the third time that phone's gone off, by the way.
Not mine.
Mine's on silent.
It's not mine. It's the fucking first time. Unless we're talking digging. You know what?
Okay, so are we ready?
Let's go to closing comments. I would say it's
my closing comment will just be a quote.
Okay, I've got a quote too, but for me, I would definitely say watch the movie. It is kind of poetic at times. It's a good combination. It's the same writer. If you go watch Queen of the Damned as well, they kind of fit together a little bit. But my quote is Armando, the Spanish vampire guy, says, "The world changes, we do not. There lies the irony that finally kills us." And if you think deeply about it, that's fun to say. But
nice.
So what about you, Casey? What's your?
I did like a kind of fun one because I thought it was a fun scene between Claudia and Louis, and when Tom Cruise is like giving him shit about eating rats or whatever, and she looks at him and she goes, "Rats? When did you eat rats?" And he was like, "It was a long time ago before you were born, and I don't recommend it." And they kind of have like a little laugh about it. And it's just a cute little moment between them that I enjoyed. So that's what I had.
Carter, closing comments or quote?
I mean, it's not. It's. I don't give it a low rating. It's not that the movie is bad. It's just it's boring. It's like someone took a bunch of vampire, gothic, and story, and then maybe turned it into a ballet or an opera. Like in a different language that you understand. So they go, I'm so conflicted about drinking human blood, but in a different language.
And we know how to feel about musicals.
And you go, oh, okay.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. But and that's what I feel about the movie. I think it's one of those. So many things that I do watch that are people think are really good that it's just wasted potential. And I think this is another movie where it's just the director's all right, he's good, but then you got some really good acting potential in there, and I think it's just wasted. Could have been a lot better. So again, I'm not saying don't watch the movie, but watch it once and tell me I'm wrong, and then tell me why. So we'll see.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on Plot Off the Press. We'll be back next week.
And Taylor might have a star by then. Woo!
I might, actually. It sounds like I might have one by Monday.
Hey!
So thank you for joining us. Like and subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify, and we'll talk next time.
Deuces.
Bye!